All right, let's just jump right in. So you've done all the right things, right? You've modernized your tech stack, you've got microservices, CI/CD, all the cool tools. But you're still not getting any faster. And you're definitely not more stable. What is going on? Well, that's what we call the modern delivery paradox. And we're going to break it all down.
And this quote from a real-world delivery plan, it just hits a little too close to home, doesn't it? It's this feeling of being completely stuck, getting the worst of both worlds. You've got all the complexity that comes with microservices, but somehow you still have the tight coupling of a monolith. This is the exact pain point we are going to unpack. So here's our game plan. First, we're going to define this paradox. Then, we'll start peeling back the layers one by one. We'll start with architecture, then move to organization, and finally, we'll get to the deepest layer of all, mindset. And don't worry, we'll wrap it all up by showing how these three pieces come together in a real integrated solution. Okay, so section 1, the modern delivery paradox. For a lot of teams, this is where the rubber meets the road. You're looking at your DORA metrics, things like deployment frequency, change failure rate, and you're just not seeing the improvement you expected. You've invested all this time and money, but the numbers, they just won't budge. This right here, this is the question that keeps engineering leaders up at night. You've followed the playbook, you broke up the monolith, you automated your pipelines, you moved to the cloud. But those core problems, the risky deployments, the slow delivery, they're still there. Why? Well, it's because the tools, they're only one part of the story. So naturally, the first place everybody looks for an answer is architecture. And the classic move is to ditch the old monolith and go all in on microservices, hoping it's going to be the magic wand that solves everything. And you can see the fundamental shift so clearly here. On the left, you've got the monolith, one giant unified code base where everything is connected. But on the right, you've got microservices, where the application is broken down into all these small, independent services, each with its own database, all talking to each other over APIs. And this really lays out the trade-offs perfectly. Yeah, monoliths are simple to get started with, but over time, they just become brittle and slow you down. Microservices, on the other hand, they promise scalability and team autonomy, but, and this is a huge but, they introduce a massive amount of operational complexity. So the key takeaway is this: just switching to microservices is not a silver bullet. You're really just trading one set of problems for another. And that brings us to the real heart of it. Because at the end of the day, you can have the most perfect architecture in the world, but code doesn't write itself. People do. Teams do. And this is the pivot point, where we shift from looking at the technical system to looking at the human system. So this leads us right into our next layer, the organization. The big idea here is that your org chart is every bit as important as your system architecture. I mean, if you want a fast flow of value, you have to literally organize your teams for it. And that is exactly where a model like team topologies comes into play. Now, team topologies gives us 4 basic types of teams. Think of your stream-aligned teams as the core. They're focused on delivering value directly to the customer. And then you have teams that support them. Platform teams build the tools to make their lives easier, enabling teams jump in to upskill them, and complicated subsystem teams handle the really gnarly specialized stuff. The whole goal is to optimize for flow. But it's not just about the types of teams, it's about how they talk to each other. Team topologies defines 3 specific ways they can interact. They can collaborate when they're exploring something new, they can consume something X as a service to be efficient, or one can facilitate another to share knowledge. When you explicitly define these interactions, you start to eliminate all those messy, unspoken dependencies that just kill productivity. And this is the question you have to go back and ask your organization. You might have the most beautifully decoupled microservices architecture, but if your front-end team is constantly blocked waiting for the back-end team, or if every single team has to go through one platform team to get anything done, you haven't actually decoupled anything that matters. You're still a monolith, just a way more complicated one. Okay, so we've talked tech and we've talked teams. Now it's time to peel back that final, deepest layer, mindset. Because the way leadership thinks about the business, about the game they're playing, well, that's the foundation for absolutely everything else. And this brings us to this incredible concept from Simon Sinek called the infinite game. It completely reframes what the purpose of a business even is. In a finite game, like baseball, there are clear winners and losers. But in business, there's no finish line. The goal isn't to win. The goal is to stay in the game, to keep playing, to outlast everyone else. So on one side, you have a finite game. Think of football. The players, the rules are fixed, and at the end, someone wins.
But business is an infinite game. New players can join at any time. The rules are always changing, and the whole point is just to keep the game going. A leader with a finite mindset is obsessed with beating the competition this quarter. A leader with an infinite mindset is focused on building an organization that's resilient enough to thrive for decades to come.
Now, a leader with that infinite mindset creates what Sinek calls a circle of safety. This is an environment where people feel safe enough to take risks, to try something new, to admit mistakes without being blamed. That psychological safety, it is the absolute bedrock of a high-performing, innovative team. It's what lets them solve those really complex problems.
And this quote it just sums it all up perfectly. A true leader's job isn't to hit the results. Their job is to create the environment to support the people who can then go and hit the results. It's a fundamental shift in where you place the responsibility, away from the numbers and onto the humans.
Okay, so let's bring it all together. How do you actually combine architecture, organization, and mindset into a plan that works? Well, we can look back at that delivery document we saw at the very beginning for a fantastic real-world example of how to do this. See, their plan doesn't just say, go do microservices. It's way smarter than that. It's a systematic approach. Step 1, get visibility. Figure out what you even have. Then build a safe, automated way to release code. And only after you've done that do you start to focus on the really deep architectural decoupling. It's a much more mature, pragmatic way forward. Now, what I really love about their approach is this maturity model. For each of their priorities, they've defined good, better, and best options. This is so smart because it's not a one-size-fits-all plan. It lets them start with some practical, easy wins and then evolve toward more sophisticated solutions over time. It's how you go from simple API checks to full-on domain squad realignment. And here are the specific tools and practices that make a plan like this actually happen. You see things like gitops and Argo CD for safe automated deployments. You see progressive delivery so you can roll out changes slowly to reduce risk. These aren't just buzzwords on a slide. They are the concrete things that enable real speed and stability. And this just drives home the point that true transformation takes time. It's a phased journey. They start by building safety and visibility in the first few months. Then they layer on release automation. And only then do they start tackling the harder decoupling work. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And at the end of the day, this is the goal. This is why you go through all the pain of wrestling with architecture, restructuring teams, and changing your entire mindset. It's to get to this place, a resilient system where autonomous teams working in a high-trust environment can safely and quickly deliver value to customers. That is the whole game. So I'll leave you with this one last question to think about. You might have all the latest, most powerful, infinite tools, the kind of tech that can build software that lasts forever. But if your leadership, your culture, and your org structure are all still playing a short-sighted, finite game, are those tools really doing you any good?